Hello everyone, this is part 4 of how to make a Pac-Man game in Scratch. In this video, I'll be creating smart enemy ghosts that will follow the player. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 3 yet, check them out, links are in the description below. Anyways, let's get started. So right now, we have ghosts that move around randomly, but let's code some enemy pathfinding to make some ghosts chase the player, like in the real Pac-Man game. So to do so, I'm going to create a new sprite, and I'm going to copy our old ghost images into this new sprite. So I'm going to click into my old ghost sprite and then drag these images into our new sprite. Alright, and now we have our new enemy ghost, and I'll just rename the sprite to something like Smart Ghost. Okay, and in our old ghost sprite, I'm actually going to copy this when I receive initialize enemy into the new Smart Ghost sprite. So drag that over. Alright, and now this script should be in our Smart Ghost sprite. And inside of our Smart Ghost, I'm also going to go to Events and drag a when flag clicked. And I'm going to hide the original sprite. And inside of variables, I'm going to set the isOriginalSprite variable to no, because when we copied over this script, we had this isOriginalSprite variable created for the Smart Ghost. So I'm going to set that to no, and I'm also going to go inside of looks and set the size to 100% just in case. And lastly, switch costume to ghost right. And now I'm going to also go to control and drag a when I start as a clone. Then I'm going to go to looks, and we want the ghost clones to of course show when they are created. And I'm also going to go to variables and create a new variable called move speed, and then select for the sprite only, and then click OK. And set the ghost move speed to 2. Alright, so these 3 scripts are pretty much the exact same as our normal ghost scripts. As you can see over here, we have the initialized enemy and the clone and stuff like that. And one last thing we have to do before we start the pathfinding code is to go inside of the map sprite. And we also want to spawn our smart ghosts. But we can't use the letter E because it's already being used for our normal ghosts. So I'm just going to type in a letter F. So I'll type it somewhere over here. And that is going to be our smart ghost. And now inside of our map sprite over here, let's right click and duplicate this if letter map x equal to E part. And let's take out the stuff inside of the else. And instead of checking if it's equal to E, we want to check if it's equal to F for our smart ghost. Then let's broadcast a new message. So I'll call this initialize smart enemy, and then click OK. And everything else should be okay. So let's drag this part inside of the else. And let's drag the if letter equal to plus sign inside of the else of the if letter equal to F. All right. And lastly, let's go back inside of our smart ghost. And instead of when I receive initialize enemy, let's change it to when I receive initialize smart enemy. All right. And actually, instead of setting isOriginalSprite to no, we want to do isOriginalSprite to yes. Okay. And now if we try it out, then we should have our smart ghost spawned in over here. And of course, right now, it does not move at all. And that is because we don't have anything coded for the smart ghost yet. So let's do that. So to make our smart ghost follow the player, let's create a new block. And I'll call this something like scan map. All right, and let's run without screen refresh and click OK. All right, so this block is going to be the first block of our pathfinding code. And by the way, the code that we will be doing is very complicated, but I'll try to explain it the best I can. So anyways, let's go to variables now, and let's create a new list. So I'll call this something like test x positions, and then make sure to select for the sprite only, and click OK. All right, and let's create another list and call this test y positions. And again, select for the sprite only and click OK. And under this scan map block, let's add the ghost X position to test X positions, and let's also add the ghost Y position to test Y positions. All right, so what we want to do for this block is that we want the smart ghost to first scan the entire map until it finds the player, and then that way it can find the best path to travel to the player. So to make the ghost scan the entire map, let's also create a new list, and I'll call this something like possible paths to player, and then select for the sprite only, and click OK. And then after these two add blocks, let's add the ghost's X position, and let's go to operators, and let's grab a join and put the X position into here. And let's also grab another join and go to motion, grab the ghost's Y position, put it on the rightmost block, and then let's type in a comma over here, and then let's drag this entire thing inside of the add. Okay, and lastly, let's change this to possible paths to player. And this list is going to be keeping track of all of the test X and Y positions that the ghost is testing to get to the player. All right, and now after this, let's go to control and grab a repeat until block. And we want to repeat until the ghost finds the player. So to do so, we want to check if the X position of the ghost minus the map X offset, and then go to operators, divided by the tile size, so that's in variables, and tile size, is equal to the player X, and then go to operators and grab an and drag this on the left side. And we also want to check if the Y position, and then go to operators, plus the map Y offset divided by the tile size is equal to the player Y. And then let's drag all of this inside of the repeat until. All right, cool. So this pretty much just checks if the ghost's position is equal to the player's position. And if it's not, then of course we want to keep searching the map. So inside of this repeat until, let's go to my blocks, and I'll create a new block, and I'll call this something like test position. And then let's also run without screen refresh and click OK. And inside of this test position block, we want our ghost to look around in all four directions. So let's go to control and grab an if, and let's go to operators, and let's first check if the ghost is not going out of the game screen. So let's grab a not, and let's go to motion, and let's grab a Y position. And actually, we want to edit this block and add two number inputs. So let's call this one X movement amount, and let's call this one Y movement amount. And pretty much these are going to be how much the ghost moves to check the next tile. So inside of this not, let's add the Y movement amount to the Y position, and let's grab a lesser than and check if this is not lesser than -180. So that means we don't want the player to exit below this part over here. And then let's grab an and, put this on the left side, and grab another not, and check if the ghost's X position plus the X movement amount is not less than -240. So that's over here. And let's drag this inside of the not. And let's also do the same for the upper Y position. So I'm going to right click duplicate and check if the Y position plus Y movement amount is not greater than +180. So let's drag this inside the left and drag this back. And lastly, let's grab another and duplicate the X position part and check if the X position plus X movement amount is not greater than positive 240. All right. And oh yeah, I did forget to add the not. So let's drag the not inside of these. Okay. And now we should be fine. So let's put this part inside of this and let's put this and inside of the left side. And let's drag this entire thing inside of the if. All right, and inside of this if statement, let's drag in one more if. And inside of this statement, we want to make sure that the ghost did not already search for a tile that it has already searched. So inside of this, let's go to operators, grab a not, and check if not the possible paths to player list already contains, and let's go up and copy this join block and drag this join inside of here. And let's also go to operators and add our X movement amount and drag this X position on the left side and drag it back in. And also do the same for the Y movement amount with the Y position. All right. And inside of this if, let's go to motion and grab a go to, and let's copy this X position plus X movement amount. And let's also copy the Y position and Y movement amount and put these inside of the go to XY. All right. And then after this, let's go to control, grab an if, and let's go to operators and check if the ghost is not touching a wall, because we don't want the ghost to consider a wall as a path to the player. So let's go to sensing and grab a touching color, and let's select our wall color. Okay. And now inside of this if not, let's go to variables and drag and add, go to motion, grab X position to test X positions, and I'm going to copy this and add the Y position to test Y positions. Okay, and then after that, let's duplicate this again. And let's add this join X Y code from up here and put it inside of this list and change it to possible paths to player. All right, and lastly, let's go to our lists and let's create two new lists. I'll call this one to visit X positions, and then select for this Sprite only and click OK. And I'll also create a to visit Y positions, and then for this Sprite only and click OK. And then after this add, let's also add the X position to visit X positions, and also let's add the Y position to visit Y positions. Okay, and then lastly, let's copy this go to XY block and drag this after this if not touching color block. And instead of plus X movement amount, let's do minus X movement amount. And let's also do the same for the Y movement amount. So minus Y movement amount. And now we are done with this test position block. Okay, so that was a lot, but pretty much what happens in this block is that this ghost will keep searching inside of this map for all of the blank squares leading up to the player. And now inside of the scan map block, let's actually put in these test position blocks. So let's drag in a test position inside of the repeat until, and let's test position, let's make the ghost go upwards first. So that's 0, and let's make it go up by our tile size. And let's right click duplicate this. And next, let's make it go right. So I'll do tile size and 0. And after that, let's make it go down. So that'd be 0 and tile size times -1. And lastly, let's make it go left. So that's tile size -1 and 0. All right, so now the player should check all of its tiles in all 4 directions. And then after that, let's grab an if, and let's just check if the length of to visit X positions is equal to 0. So pretty much that means if the ghost has no tiles to check, and that means the player cannot be found. So in this case, let's go to control, and let's just drag a stop this script. And let's also create a new variable, and I'll call this found player, and select for the sprite only, and then click OK. Okay, so if the ghost has no more tiles to check, then let's set found player to no, because it did not find the player. And then at the end of this repeat until, let's set found player to yes. So now to make the ghost actually move around to scan the entire map, let's go to motion, and let's make it go to, and let's go to variables and lists, go to item 1 of 2 visit x positions for the x, and let's also make it go to item 1 of 2 visit y positions for the y. Okay, and then after that, let's delete the first item of 2 visit x positions, and also delete the first item of 2 visit y positions, so that it can search the next tile after already searching the previous one. All right, and lastly, let's go to motion, and drag a go to xy block before the found player block. And let's copy the code from over here actually. Okay. And let's drag this code after the repeat until up here. All right. And instead of enemy starting x, let's do enemy x. And instead of enemy starting y, let's do enemy y. All right, so this is all the code needed for our scan map. So now let's put these blocks into use. So let's go to events, and let's drag a when I receive start game. Then let's go to control and grab a forever loop, and let's check if is original sprite is equal to no, which means that if it is a ghost clone, then let's run the code. So first off, let's delete all of these lists. So let's delete all of test x positions, and delete all of test y positions, and delete all of possible paths to player, and delete all of 2 visit x positions, and delete all of 2 visit y positions. All right, and then after that, let's make the ghost try to find the player on the map by searching every tile. So let's grab an if and put it after all of these delete all. And then let's go to operators, grab a not, and check if not enemy x equal to player x. And then go to operators, grab an and enemy y equal to player y. Down here. Okay. So if the ghost has not found the player yet, then we want it to scan the map. However, once the ghost has found the player, which means if found player is equal to yes, then we want the ghost to actually find the best path to the player. But to first test these 2 blocks, let's first edit our scan map block and uncheck this run without screen refresh, and then click OK. All right. And inside of the map sprite, I'm actually going to first hide all of our random movement ghosts. So I'm going to replace all of the E's with a blank space, just so that I can only see the smart ghost. Okay. So now let's try it out. So now, as you can see, the ghost is going through its path finding search for the player. And as you can see, every time it touches the player, then it just resets. And of course, that's not what we want right now, but we can easily fix that later. So yeah, as you can see, our ghost is currently searching the entire map until it touches the player, and then it stops searching and resets. Okay, so now I'm going to edit and check the run without screen refresh again, and that way the ghost does the search like instantaneously. So now, to make the ghost actually move to the player, we have to create a new block, and let's call this something like find shortest path. and then run without screen refresh, and click OK. All right. And inside of this if found player equal to yes, then we want to drag in the find shortest path. All right. And under this find shortest path, we are going to use all of our X and Y positions from the test X and Y positions list to generate the shortest path. Okay, so let's first create a new list, and I'll call this something like goal X position, and then select for this Sprite only, and then click OK. And let's also create one and call it goal Y position, and then select for this Sprite only, click OK. All right, and let's add the player's X and Y position into the goal X and Y position lists. So let's go to variables and drag the player X, and let's go to operators and multiply it by the tile size. And lastly, let's add the map X offset and drag this inside of the goal X position. Okay, so now I'll add the player Y times tile size minus the map Y offset. Okay. And let's add this inside of the goal Y position. All right. So in this find shortest path block, we are actually going to work backwards. We're going to start at the player's X and Y position and then try to find the shortest path to the enemy ghost. So let's go to control and grab a repeat until. And let's repeat until the first item of the goal X position list. So item 1 of goal X position is equal to the enemy's position. So that's going to be enemy X times tile size plus map X offset, which is the exact same as over here. So map offset X. All right. And let's drag an and let's also duplicate and do the same thing for the Y position. So item 1 of goal Y position is equal to enemy Y times tile size minus the map offset Y. Okay, so like this. All right, and let's drag this entire thing inside of the repeat until. So now inside of this repeat until loop, we have to do something similar to what we did inside of our scan map block, which is to go left, right, up, and down to find all of the best possible positions. So inside of our find shortest path block, let's create a new block, and I'll call this something like step through path. Okay, and then click run without screen refresh. And let's add 2 number inputs. So I'll call this X movement amount. And then let's also call this something like Y movement amount. Okay. And similar to what we did inside of our scan map, let's also do the same thing for our step through paths. So let's drag in a step through path. And let's first type in 0 and then tile size. And let's also make the player go to tile size 0. So that's to the right. And then let's make the player go downwards. So that's tile size times -1 over here. And then let's make the player go to the left. So like this. All right. And now inside of the step through path, we want pretty much the same if statement as we had in our test position block. So let's right click duplicate and let's take out everything inside of these 2 ifs. So let's leave the 2 ifs but take out everything inside, and let's drag this inside of our step through path block. So in the first if, we are checking if the ghost is not out of bounds. However, this time we want to check if the goal X and Y positions are not out of bounds. So let's take out the Y position, and instead, let's grab item 1 of goal Y position, and then drag it inside of here. And let's do item 1 of goal X position, and then item 1 of goal Y position. and then item 1 of goal X position. Okay. And now inside of the second if, we used to check if the ghost has not gone on this path before. However, this time we want it to only follow the path that the ghost has gone before. So let's take out the not and only put in the possible paths to player block. All right. And again, instead of X position, let's do item 1 of goal X position. And also let's do item 1 of goal Y position instead of just Y position. And then after that, let's create a new variable. And I'll call this something like steps to player. And then select for the sprite only. And then click OK. And this is going to pretty much measure how far the ghost is to the player in terms of tiles. So let's first set steps to player to 0. And then we want to drag a repeat until loop and put it after the 0. And then we want the ghost to count how many tiles it takes to reach the player. So let's grab an equals in the operators and then drag it inside of the repeat until. And let's go to variables, go inside of lists, and grab item steps to player of possible paths to player, which are all of the empty spaces that lead to the player. And let's put this inside of the left side. And we want to check if it is equal to, let's grab a join. And let's grab a item 1 of goal X position plus the X movement amount. So I'm going to actually just copy this. And also for the Y movement amount with the goal Y position. Okay. And after this, I'm going to change the steps to player by 1. And then lastly, let's create a new list. And I'll call this best path to player. And then select for the sprite only and click OK. And after this repeat until loop, let's add steps to player to best path to player. Okay, so now we're finally done with the step through path block. And pretty much what this block does is that, let's say our ghost is over here. So pretty much it just goes through all of the paths that it searched through the scan map block. And then it just checks how many tiles it takes to reach the player. So for example, one path might be like from here to here. So that'd be like, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tiles. And then another path it might search is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tiles. And pretty much it just compiles all of the path lengths that it would take to reach to the player. So now that we have this block, we want to actually compare these lengths and then find the best possible path. So inside of the find shortest path, after it steps through all of the paths, let's go to events and drag a repeat. And let's repeat the length of best path of player minus 1. So inside of here, let's grab an if else and check if item 1 of best path to player is shorter or lesser than the second item of best path to player, then that means we want to keep the shorter path. So we want to delete the second item of best path to player. Otherwise, if the second item of best path to player is shorter than the first one, then we want to delete the first item. All right, and then after all of this, let's grab an insert block after the repeat, and let's insert item and drag another item. So insert item 1 of best path of player of test X positions, because remember, those were the X positions that the ghost generated to find the player. And let's drag this inside of the insert, and inside of the at, let's change this to goal X position. Okay, and now let's duplicate this and do the same for the Y positions. So insert item 1 of best path to player of test Y positions, to goal Y position. All right, cool. And lastly, let's delete all of best path for player. And that is it for all of the pathfinding code. Okay, so pretty much what this block does is that it finds the shortest path to the player, and then once it does find the shortest path, the ghost takes one step towards that player, and then it loops through the entire code again to continue on that shortest path. So now, inside of our start game script, after this find shortest path, let's create two new variables, and I'll call the first one final x position, and then select for the sprite only, and then click OK. And I'm going to create a final y position, and then select for the sprite only, and click OK. And then after this find shortest path, let's set the final x position to the second item, so item 2 of goal x position. Because keep in mind, item 1 of goal x position was our player's position. So I'm going to copy this and also do the same for final y position, and also change this to goal y position. Okay. And then finally, after this, we can do the actual enemy movement. Because right now, the enemy is not actually moving in the game. It's just scanning the map for all of the available tiles and also scanning the map for the shortest distance. So now to make the ghost actually move, let's create a new block, and I'll call this enemy movement. And let's run without screen refresh, and then click OK. And let's drag the enemy movement after the set blocks. And inside of our enemy movement block, let's grab an if else and check if the x position is less than the final x, which is our final x position that the ghost wants to travel to. Then let's make it move right. So let's create a new block, and I'll call this move right, and then click OK. All right, and let's drag the move right inside of here. And then I'm going to create 3 more blocks. So one for move left, one for move up, and one for move down. Okay. And inside of the enemy movement, let's right click duplicate and check if the x position is greater than the final x position. Then let's make it move left. Okay. And let's duplicate this one more time and check if the y position now is greater than final y position. Then let's make it move down. And then else, let's grab an if and check if the y position is less than the final y position. Then let's make it move up. Okay, so now our enemy movement code is done, but now let's actually make the enemy move inside of these 4 move blocks. So I'm going to start with the move right. In this case, let's just simply change enemy x by 1, and then we can actually go inside of our ghost sprite, which is the random ones, and we can copy the code from the enemy ghost movement. So over here, okay, let's copy the code from the move left right block inside of the smart ghost sprite. And let's drag this under the move right. Okay, and we actually can shorten this out a lot, so we don't need this if, and we don't need this set enemy x. And let's see, we don't need the target tile. All we need is this repeat until loop. And we don't need this times dir x. We can just have move speed since it's moving to the right. And we don't need all of these multiplied direction x's in the repeat until. So let's take these out. All right, and last one. And okay. So it should read change enemy x by 1, repeat until x position is greater than enemy x times tile size plus map offset x minus move speed, and then change x by move speed, and we don't need this set enemy x, and then we can leave this set x to enemy x times tile size plus map offset x. Okay, so now for the move left, we can just right click duplicate, and instead of changing by +1, we change enemy x by -1, and we want to change x by move speed times -1 because it's moving to the left. And lastly, instead of a greater than, we have to do x position is lesser than. Okay. And now everything should be fine. And oh yeah, actually, let's also add a times -1 to the move speed because it's moving to the left. Okay. And now let's edit the move up and move down blocks. So let's copy the code from the move right inside of the move up. So all we have to change are the enemy x's to enemy y's, and also x position to y position, and enemy x here to enemy y, map offset x to map offset y, and also instead of plus map offset y, we have to do minus map offset y. Okay. And instead of change x by move speed, we have to do change y by move speed, and also set y to all of this instead of set x to, and change enemy x to enemy y, and minus, once again, map offset y. Okay, and change the map offset x to map offset y. And that should be fine for the move up. And lastly, for the move down, we can just copy our code from the move up block and change enemy y by -1 and change the greater than to a lesser than. Okay. And change y by move speed times -1 and set y to enemy y times tile size minus map offset y. Okay. And also don't forget to times -1 to the move speed over here. And now I think we should be fine. All right, and one more thing is to delete all of the goal X and Y position lists. So let's drag a delete all of goal X position and also delete all of goal Y position. And also we want to delete all of the best path to player list. All right, so let's drag these before the if. And oh yeah, one more important thing that needs to be changed is that inside of our step through path block, instead of joining these two together, we're actually missing this join comma, which is really important. So let's take this out from the repeat until item steps to player, and let's copy this join block up here inside of the equal. So make sure that this block includes the comma. And now let's try it out. So if we click the green flag, then as you can see, our ghost follows a player. All right, cool. So the ghost seems to be moving a bit fast, but that's because I did accidentally set the enemy movement block to run without screen refresh. So let's just find the enemy movement block and right click, edit, and uncheck this check mark. Okay, so let's try it out now. And as you can see, the ghost moves at a normal speed and it follows a player. All right, cool. As you can see, if we try going around, then it finds the shortest path and it works. Awesome. So let's try it out a bit more. So as you can see, it's constantly following the player. Let's try going over here. And I made it so that the player moves a bit faster than the enemy ghost. So let's try moving over here somewhere. And the ghost constantly updates its best path. So, oh, okay, as you can see, it took a shortcut to chase to the player faster. And if we go over here, for example, then it's going to touch the player. All right, cool. So now that we're done with that, let's just make some small edits to the smart ghost. So first off, in the costumes, I'm going to make it a light blue instead of a red outline. So I'll just drag the slider to somewhere over here. Okay. And I'll just delete the left ghost costume and right click duplicate and then flip it horizontally. All right. And now it's a light blue ghost, just to make it different than our random ghosts. And of course, let's also add in our random ghosts. So inside of the map sprite, I'm going to add back our random ghosts. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to try testing it with multiple smart ghosts. So let's try like 2 smart ghosts. So if we have 2, then as you can see, both of them follow the player like so. All right, cool. But I think I'm going to only have 1 smart ghost because sometimes they might overlap. Like right now they're not, but sometimes they might just go on top of each other. So I think I'm going to stick with 1 smart ghost. But yeah, so I'm going to add back my normal random ghosts. Okay, so I'll just add some E's for the normal ghosts. And let's try it out. So as you can see, here are our 3 randomly moved ones. And also we have our pathfinding ghost, which is the light blue one. And okay, so as you can see, this one is constantly following the player. And these 3 are just moving randomly. And okay, I touched one of the red ghosts, so the game stopped. But of course, I also want the game to stop when I touch the light blue ghost. So inside of the cat sprite, let's grab an OR and check if it's touching the ghost or touching the smart ghost, then stop all. All right, so now let's try it out on the main screen. So now, as you can see, we have 3 randomly moving ghosts, and the light blue one is the one that follows the player. And yeah, let's try playing around with the smart ghost. Okay, as you can see, it is constantly finding the shortest path to the player, and these 3 other ghosts just move around randomly. So yeah, and if I touch the smart ghost, then the game stops. Anyways, that's it for this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe too, if you haven't already. In the next video, I'll be adding pellets for the player to eat and other features as well. By the way, this project is shared on my Scratch profile. Link is in the description below. Anyways, that's it for this video. See ya!